Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome all of you to the webinar, Reconnect Hong Kong-Malaysia Partnership. And may I please introduce myself to everyone. My name is Melody and I will be your host for today. The webinar today is organized by the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau of the Hong Kong SAR government and the Ministry of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia. And it is also our privilege to have the following parties co-organizing the event. That is, the Consulate General of Malaysia in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Jakarta, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong. Today's event is also supported by Invest Hong Kong, the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, and the Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation. Before we get started, I would like to extend a gentle reminder for all of our participants about the following points. First of all, this webinar will be conducted in English and it will last for about 1 hour and a half. It is our privilege to also have the following parties co-organizing the event for today, and they are the Consulate General of Malaysia in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Jakarta, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong. Today's event is also supported by Invest Hong Kong, the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, and also the Malaysian External Trade Development Corporation. And before I get started for today, may I please remind all of our participants of the following points. First of all, the webinar will be conducted in English and it will last for about 1 hour and a half. The microphones and videos for the audience will be muted at all times. Therefore, if you wish to ask questions, please do submit your questions together along with your email address by using the Q&A function that we have available. And while you may submit your questions anytime during the webinar, they will only be answered during the Q&A session. And we may not be able to address all of the questions during the Q&A session. Therefore, please note that any unanswered questions relevant to the topic of discussion today will be replied individually, that is via email, after the webinar. The chat function will also be disabled throughout the webinar. So everyone, please do make note of that. Now, I would like to introduce the agenda for today's webinar, and we will start with the welcome remarks by Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong SAR government. And this will then be followed by the responding remarks, that is by YB Datu Sari Mohammed Azmin Ali, that is the Senior Minister, Ministry of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia. And next, we will have a panel discussion that is on emerging stronger and closer collaboration and partnership. And today, we are very delighted to have leading figures from both Hong Kong and Malaysia across different industries. That is, including the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, and the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, etc. That is at the panel. And after the panel discussion, we will then open the floor to the audience for the Q&As. And lastly, we will invite Mr. Edward Yao and Mr. Yap Wei Sin, to the Consul General of Malaysia in Hong Kong, to deliver the closing remarks for us. Without further ado, let us invite Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong SAR government, to address to the audience. Secretary Yao, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Senior Minister.
Thank you very much, Secretary Yao. Definitely something to look forward to. YB Datu Seri Mohammed Azmin Ali, Senior Minister, Ministry of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia, will now deliver his remarks to us.
His Excellency Edward Yao, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of Hong Kong, distinguished panel speakers, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Also a matter of survival. Again, in this regard, I think Hong Kong and Malaysia can be
And before we start for today, I would just like to remind all of our participants
for initiating this webinar and for the opportunity to be with you.
Consumers in Malaysia are very brand conscious.
And let's take a final quick question. It's about finance. This person wants to invest in Malaysia and wants to buy Malaysian stocks. Now he's asking where can he find more information. Dato Seri.
Thank you. The webinar today is
Now, we may turn to the Q&A session, and I'm sure that our audience will be very eager to learn even more about the speakers today. And we have already received some questions. And for those of you who have not yet submitted a question, please do feel free to do so with the Q&A function. Commissioner Yip and he will moderate the Q&A session for us and direct some of the selected questions for the speakers and panelists to answer. And may I please hand over to Commissioner Yip once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melody.
So with that, I would like to reiterate my thanks to everyone involved, from the key speakers to the technical support, for making this webinar a successful one. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Consul General, for your kind words. Thank you again for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the webinar has now come to an end. We hope that it has been a fruitful afternoon for all of you. Thank you once again to all of our distinguished guests and speakers for their insights, and all of the participants for joining us today. Thank you very much. Goodbye and have a great afternoon.